Representative Dianne Hart, and tonight on the opening statement, I have the pleasure of interviewing Mr. Lance Stevens. Many of you all know that the month of October, breast cancer awareness, no apologies for the fact that our community, especially Black people, is impacted more by breast cancer than any other community, but we die more. So I kind of wanted to make sure that we talk about this. It's important that people understand that not just women have breast cancer, but so can men. So Lance has been gracious enough to sit down with me this evening and have this conversation. I can't even imagine. I know it must be a tough conversation, but I want to thank you, Lance, for joining me this evening to have this conversation.
Well, thank you for having me.
So Lance, let's just jump right in. How did you find out you had breast cancer?
Well, I had a knot on my chest and I thought it was arising. And I said, well, it'll go away. And one night I laid in the bed and my wife rolled over and she rubbed the right side of my chest and she says, what is that? And I said, baby, it's a knot. And I said, it's been there for a couple of weeks now. And I say, I was hoping it'll go away. And she said, no, you're going to the doctor first thing Monday morning. And so when I went to my primary doctor, he looked at it and I had swelling under my armpit. And he advised me to go see a breast doctor. Uh-huh. And so when I went to see the breast doctor, he looked at it. He said, I'm not sure what that is. And so because I'm a man and women catch breast cancer, we wasn't even thinking that it was breast cancer. And me and my wife was preparing to go out of town. And so she said, well, we can just go to Dr. Taylor, who is an African-American skin doctor. And we can go to him and let him just, if it's arising, he can just bust it and we can go on our way.
Right.
And so when I went to Dr. Taylor, he said the same thing. He said, I'm not going to just bust that because I don't know what it is.
Right.
And so then I end up going back to the breast doctor and he said, well, I tell you what, I'm going to, we're just going to have a procedure and I'll just take a piece out and I'm not going to go into it. And then I send it to the pathologist and let them check to find out what it is. Right. And so he did that. And the thing about it, once I came out of the procedure, it was one Friday evening, I never forget, because my daughter's godmother was celebrating her 5 years of surviving breast cancer. Right, and so we was going to spend the weekend with her. And I was at home, and I was in my office, and he called me, and he said, "Are you sitting down?" The doctor called me and said, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Yes, I'm sitting down." And he said, "Where's your wife?" And I said, "Well, she's on the other side of the house." And he said, "I hate to tell you," he said, "but it's breast cancer." And when he told me that, when you hear it, you think it's like a death sentence almost. To me, that's how I took it.
Right, of course.
And so he said, "But don't worry about it. You're gonna get through this." And so then we did go to the event to celebrate my daughter's godmother's her victory of breast cancer, and the whole weekend went by with this situation on my mind. But I didn't tell her because I wanted her to enjoy her moment. Oh. And so then that Monday, once the event was over, I told her about it and what the prognosis was, and she said, "Oh, don't worry about it." She said, "I'm going to introduce you to my team of doctors, and you're going to be just fine." And so I was diagnosed with third stage breast cancer.
Wow. So that means that it had been growing there for a while. Had you not ever felt the lump prior to that Friday?
Well, when like I said, I felt the lump, but I thought it was just arising. And but they did tell me because it was growing out instead of in. That's what kind of kept it hidden. It's especially I'm a big guy, so it was kind of hidden under the tissue. And right. So and so I if she would not have felt it that night and I ignored it, it could have been worse for me.
Oh,
I
absolutely,
would.
absolutely. So you just spared this an entire weekend without sharing it with your wife.
I told my wife about it immediately. Once the doctor hung up the phone with me, I
Oh,
told her, and I sat down and I say, hey, the doctor called and I said I got breast cancer. Is of course, like I said, it was just a moment for us to, just share with one another about the seriousness of the issue.
right.
And and so we had our moments of tears and stuff, and then
Absolutely.
we just I just turned it over to God from that day forward.
Would you say, this is not my fight, Father, but it's yours? I'm going to give it to you.
Yes, ma'am.
So what was going through the stages like? Did you had to have surgery to have?
Yeah, and so because and so the way I understand, the correct procedure is to go through radiation where they will shrink the
Right,
tumor, and then after they shrink the tumor, then you start the chemo.
right,
Well, they said because of the stage I was in and the size that it was, they
right.
reversed the procedure where I had to have a mastectomy
Uh-huh.
and on my right side, and then once
Right.
I went through that, then I started chemo. And the funny thing about chemo, we hear stories where people say, "Well, chemotherapy will make it worse." And I kind of, you hear those type of things, and I like, well, I'm going to follow the doctors.
Follow the professionals.
Yes, 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 ma'am.
Forget about what y'all talking about. I'm
Yeah,
going with the people who he's laid hands on to bless me.
yes, yes, yes. And so once I went through that procedure, I did have to take. I think it was like 9 rounds of chemotherapy, like every 3 weeks, and then I had to go through radiation. But the most amazing thing about it was my wife kept telling me to fill out FMLA paperwork from the doc. I mean, for my job, just in case I'd be sick after the chemotherapy. And I kept telling her, I said, I'm not going to fill out FMLA paperwork. I'm just going to, if go through this, and God's going to give me the strength. And I went to work every day. I didn't miss any work. And now, of course, once you do the chemo, it does make you tired, but on the weekend, I did have to rest because of the chemotherapy, but it was God's grace that kept me going. And when I went to my initial consultation with the doctor at the Tampa Cancer Center, they told me that with this type of situation, your faith has to kick in, and so that helped me a whole lot.
Well, you continue to work, so you never really took any time off from work.
Only to have the procedures done. But through the chemo and the radiation, I didn't take any time off. And my wife would get upset with me because I would drive myself to chemotherapy, and she would like, "You don't want me to take you?" I said, "No, I'm going." And that was my strength. That was my test. So I had to do it for myself. It wasn't nothing against her for not taking me. I just had to, do that for myself so I can keep going. And that's and I think that helped me out a whole lot also.
So doing that, driving yourself to chemo and all, gave you some inner strength to continue on.
Yes, ma'am. It was building my inner strength to continue on. So yes, and I would drive myself to chemo and drive myself back home.
Hey, that's the difference between us and you all, right?
Yeah.
Do you think mentally, just knowing that you have breast cancer, have you ever heard about any other men who had it?
Only from the doctors. I haven't had a chance to meet someone, a male that experienced breast cancer, but from doctors, they'll tell you that men have a greater chance than women. And the doctor said about a man who had breast cancer and he was cured. And so then with these type of situations, you have all these mixed emotions. So you go to the internet and you Google things and you Google questions and but some of the answers may be clear. Some of them you be like, I'm still in the same boat, And so you really worry yourself more by trying to figure out, okay, how to fix this, but you're not a doctor, so. And so it can be challenging to because it's scary, especially when you see people around you as you go through chemotherapy, and then you don't see that person anymore, and then you may have a glimpse or hear something and be like, oh, they're no longer with us, and so it can be a little scary sometimes. Well, during that moment, it was a little scary.
Being in that room where you take your chemo, and then one day you go in and that person's no longer there.
Yeah, that can be it can be scary. Yes, ma'am, it can be a little scary. But I also understand that everybody's different. Everybody's situation is different, and so that kind of say, okay, well, I just have to focus on me right now. And so yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
strictly on how you're feeling and how you're doing.
Yes.
To concentrate on.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
We will be right back after this station identification.
You are watching The Opening Statement with your host, Dianne Hart, right here on Tampa Bay Television Network.
Breast cancer doesn't discriminate.
It doesn't discriminate.
Breast cancer doesn't discriminate.
Men have breasts too.
I am a breast cancer survivor.
A breast cancer survivor. Let's see some blue.
Let's see some blue.
Let's see some blue.
Along with the pink too.
Now, on with the show.
I'm State Representative Dianne Hart, and I have the pleasure of interviewing Mr. Lance Stevens. It's important that people understand that not just women have breast cancer, but so can men. Did you share this with your entire family?
Not all at once. I did not. I had to share with my daughter who was in college, and that was a tough one because I wanted her to continue on. And so I did have to share with her. And of course, my immediate family, like my mom and my mother-in-law and my sister and my brothers, I did share with them and my father. And so it was very challenging because, like you say, even though you can educate yourself about things like this, you still don't know the outcome. And so to explain it to them or tell them, my son, his mom called me and she said, "What did you tell your son when he came over there?" And I told her, I said, well, I told him I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And she said, he's outside on the steps, boo crying. And I said, well, he didn't cry when he left. He wasn't crying when he left my house. And she said, yeah. She said, but he saw his sister, and he may have mentioned it to her. And so that's when, I said, wow. But my sister, she wanted me to tell them because in certain situations they need to see that you have to have faith or strength in God to go through tests and battles in this world. So that was one of the main reasons of sharing that information with them.
That could not be easy for your children.
Oh yeah, oh man, yeah. My daughter, she lost it, but I just stayed positive around her and called her every day, how the grades doing, and so and she would tell me, she said, "Dad, you don't act like you're sick," and I'm like, I'm not, but we all know the difference.
We will be right back.
I was just getting a routine, my annual physical, and I noticed that there was a bump on my chest that I had my physician take a look at. At that point, she recommended that I go to imaging to get it checked out and have an ultrasound. When they made the appointment, it was for an ultrasound. When I arrived, they said, we're doing a mammogram. And so I'm like, that's not really what I came for. But ultimately, they did the mammogram, and then in that same day, they had to go back and do the ultrasound anyway. So I got all the full meal deal. Now, 6 months prior, my niece was diagnosed with breast cancer while she was pregnant. And so as a family, we bonded together to support her and all that. So of course I did have concerns right off, but I tried to tell myself it's nothing, won't be a big deal. So shortly after my imaging results, I was called by Baylor Scott and White, one of the nurses, to schedule a biopsy. It was tough at first, you know, to have them let you know, hey, this is cancerous and we need to do something about it. My initial reaction to it being breast cancer was pretty much, I've never known any man with breast cancer. So it's like I hit the wrong lotto. And, you know, breast cancer, wow. So I found out that it was a real thing. It does occur. Facing the reality of it was one of the tougher times in the whole situation for me because I didn't know what was next. I finally came to Baylor and I had a sit down and meet with the doctor, my wife and I. That is when the whole thing was kind of broken down to me. And she did a great job of explaining exactly where I was at. And after that, I was actually given options of how I want to proceed with my care going forward. I chose to go the double mastectomy route because it was such a lower rate of return for the cancer. And the last thing I wanted to do was come back and go through it again. And once the tumor was removed, they sent the tumor off to be tested. And an interesting thing is that my breast cancer results came back exactly like my niece's. Because of the test results, chemotherapy was recommended that I would have to go through some treatments. And once again, I said, okay. And my wife boo-hooed. Made an appointment to have a port inserted. That is how they administered the chemotherapy. Final outcome for me was to be able to ring the bell. I fought really hard to get to that point. And really my inspiration for that was my niece that I spoke about earlier. She actually had a single mastectomy while pregnant. She had a healthy baby boy and she proceeded and completed all of her treatment and was able to ring the bell. And she's doing great. She just laid the foundation for how to go through something like this, and it's made me a stronger person. Breast cancer for me, it's had not only a negative effect in a sense, but a positive effect on my life. And I say that because you don't realize sometimes the support that you have until you need it. My support staff or team, as I call them, unreplaceable. Did everything mentally and physically that they could for me when I needed them. I have a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful kids, and a huge family that loves me and I love them. So at this point, a year later, I am 100% sure that Baylor Scott and White was the best solution for me. It was the best care that I could have chosen throughout this process. I came to the right place. I've met some great people, some people that have impacted my life, and I hope that I may have made them smile once or twice during my time here too.
You are watching The Opening Statement with your host, Dianne Hart, right here on Tampa Bay Television Network.
Now, on with the show.
I'm State Representative Dianne Hart, and it's important that people understand that not just women have breast cancer, but so can men.
How long will I have to take the pills? I have to take them once every day for the next 10 years. And so, you could think of it as at first I could say, I could complain about it. but I'm alive. So I don't, I just take my medicine and that's what it is.
That's right. That's all that's important, that you're alive.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell men what they need to do.
I've learned that on our birthday, we like to celebrate. And so we have a birthday that God blesses us with once a year. Take that date and go to the doctor and give yourself a birthday present. Let them do your bloods and your stat, you do everything, get your full body checked. And, that way we can stay healthy and we can find out things that we don't know about ourselves. And, and I believe that's something that we can celebrate is I went to the doctor on my birthday or the day after, and you'll never forget that. Okay, on this date, my birthday is July the 13th. And so on July the 13th, if it wasn't on the weekend, I'm going to the doctor to make my appointment, and go get my test done, go get my blood work done. And, and we can have a healthy or a much more healthy society, especially with our men.
You have death in your family, and we're going to continue to pray for you and your family. And may God continue to bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right. Have a great one.
We will be right back after this station identification.
You are watching The Opening Statement with your host, Dianne Hart, right here on Tampa Bay Television Network.
We're about to hear the debut of a new song. First, let me give you just a bit of background. We've been following Al and AJ, a father and son here in Jacksonville. They both these guys got breast cancer. Well, the other day, my phone rang and it was Al. He just started writing down some words. So you called me and go, hey, listen to this.
Yeah.
You started singing to me on the phone.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question for you. See if you Al follows buddy check.
And I got to thank Miss Jeannie Blaylock for that because I never would have known what a buddy check was until I saw the show.
Well, now, Al, you and your son, AJ, you're the smart ones. Both of them caught their breast cancer pretty early. Their doctor at Baptist MD Anderson saying, men, you gotta check too.
When I called you and saying I was reading it off the notepad because I had just wrote it.
Back Row Studios, buddy check, take 4.
The buddy check is for you and me. It could change your life, and it's so easy. I did the check, and it worked for me. Now my son and I are cancer-free.
Oh, yeah, cancer-free. You can't beat that. And you can't beat being bold. AJ here showing you his chest post-mastectomy.
It's for the guys too.
Oh, right.
It was awesome. Al, I love it. And so, ladies, look at this father-son duo and think about the men in your life. Are you sure they're checking? Now, folks, I think it would be great if you would share that song on social media. We got to remind our men to check, right? Just go to my Facebook page, Jeannie Blaylock. I've posted Al singing his song. Please do share it. And this is important. Men, look for anything out of the ordinary. Now, Al's lump felt like a hard metal screw. And then you see that picture right there. AJ noticed a brownish blood stain on his t-shirt. Fortunately, they both went to the doctor, both caught their breast cancer pretty early, and they're doing well. So everybody, ladies and gentlemen, do that check today.
Now, on with the show.
So I want to thank him and his family for taking time out of what is a sad occasion for him to inform us on what it is we should do. So until next week, thank you.
They said that he had taken a teddy bear from the cemetery and they arrested him, but he was released maybe 2 days later, and my students reported to me.
We will certainly take that into consideration and think about how to build out a curriculum and work with people like you and your organization and school to do that. So yes, thank you for that challenge. And right now we don't have necessarily a curriculum, but you can go out onto the network, and many people actually are using the Black Cemetery Network to teach in their classes. Now there's a book coming out that has some curriculum in there or exercises in there, more for high school or college age, but people are actually actively using the Black Cemetery Network to do structured curriculum around.
Hi, I'm State Representative Dianne Hart, and today, Legacies in Place and Memories in Mind, a tribute to the Black History and Memorial Park Cemetery. This cemetery has many of our veterans buried here, but some of you all may know that here in our city, we found buildings on top of some of our graves. Well, today we're going to go over to the cemetery and pay honor and tribute to many of the people who are buried here. So I'm asking you all to come out if you have an opportunity anytime in the near future and visit our cemetery and just take in all of the history that's here in our cemetery. So thank you. We're about to cross the street in just a moment.